Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. Hello. I hope that you are getting your week off to a good start. However, it is that you have uh, your week to get started, you need to develop, if you haven't already, a routine that sets you in the proper space, the proper state, the proper mindset uh, to be able to be successful daily. And you need to also transition that into how you prepare for your week. I enter into every week with an expectation of what I will get done, and to the best of my ability, how it will get done, how it will get done. Now, the thing I understand is there are a lot of things that I'm going to set up in my mind that I want to get done, that I may not have all the elements and components and ideas already in place, but I don't wait on those. I sense what needs to be done and I establish a commitment to getting it done. Then I develop and become and learn and grow into what's necessary in order to achieve it. And I consistently do this as I move through life. My goal every day is to wake up, examine myself in comparison or in juxtaposition to what I and who I was yesterday. And that should be something about me that has grown. It's a consistent thing. It may have been in very small micro increments, or it could have been something that was a part of an epiphany or massive discovery that totally evolved me in certain areas. But there has to be, good morning, everyone. There has to be some growth. That's how I measure myself. I have goals because goals allow me to see progress in larger increments, but I measure myself daily. I look at myself daily. I give myself room to be in process, but it's about growing. So my thing is, I'm encouraging you to establish for yourself a routine that puts you in the proper state, the proper mindset, uh, in order to engage life in a way that will get the best results. There's so much that's out there that you're going to have to engage and deal with. There are just things you won't be able to circumvent and get around in this life if you're going to challenge yourself to be the best you can possibly be. So that's my thing for you. Um, Before I move on, don't forget, if you haven't gotten your copy of Critical Mass, the phenomenon of next level living, I'm encouraging you to do that right now, at least through the end of the holidays. We are going to be doing free disc assessments for every person who purchases the book. That means that if you purchase the book, you get a free disc assessment, which is valued at $350. And so I think that's a great deal. So definitely, if you haven't done it, get it. Now let's talk about something that's extremely important. For about maybe the last 6 to 7 months, I've been looking at one element or component that's extremely prevalent and destructive in Western culture. Because even though I have clients in London, in Ireland, in Ghana, in Australia, mostly all of the work I do now is here. But in the Western culture, there's this geographical, uh, I don't necessarily want to say socioeconomic, but it is socioeconomic in one way, but it's much bigger. But there's this force that's moving that catapults us and pushes us. And we respond to it in the way that we've been conditioned and trained to respond to it. But the problem is it's counterintuitive, it's counterproductive, and it leads us to darker places and more frustrating results. And so I've been studying loneliness. And people say, what does loneliness have to do with success? Loneliness has a lot to do with a lot. And so I sit up, and one of the things that I discovered is I ran across a study done by the BBC that totally blew my mind. It says that in the Western culture that loneliness is up 300%. Wow, 300%. And so that was like huge to me, 300% in the last 10 years. So in the last decade, um, loneliness has grown or multiplied at the rate of over 300%. It's a lot of people. Probably what really blew my mind more than anything was the fact that the largest group of people who are loneliness was totally opposite of what I thought. When we think of loneliness, we normally think of people who have entered into their golden years, maybe have lost a mate or never been married, children are grown out of the house, the elderly, hey, they're pretty much by themselves. They don't get to go out as much as they used to, things of that nature. And what I actually discovered is that children, well, not children, youth between the ages of 16 and 24 are significantly the largest group of people who are experiencing loneliness on a chronic level. Everybody feels lonely every now and then. You're going through something and you feel like you're alone. Now, the first thing I want to do before I get off into this is explain the difference from being alone and the feeling of loneliness. See, being alone means there's no one around. There are people who are alone and don't feel lonely. But then there are people with people surrounding them on a consistent basis every day and still experience the feeling of loneliness. And so loneliness is a mental idea. It's a mindset. It's how we view life. It's how we experience life. And so when we talk about loneliness, we're not talking about proximity. We're talking about spiritual view or mindset or emotional ideas and the way we experience life. So you can have a bunch of people around. I've been that person where everybody around me is, just constantly and desiring to be there. And yet I feel lonely. Why? And you're going to understand more when I explain this, but loneliness is ended by approaching life in the way we were naturally designed to, working with others, but more importantly, working with those who share similar meanings of life. And when those meanings intersect, we share with one another. We share our hopes, our dreams, our visions, our aspirations. We build each other. We lift each other. We create this environment in which now you're not alone, but it's also safe because everybody is pulling and pushing for everybody. We don't create good circles. And so we tend to live large, huge moments of emptiness and loneliness because the people around us can't relate to who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. And so it's this feeling of I'm in it by myself, no matter how many people are around me. And so the thing is, the one thing that I also discovered is that we are moving from one age into another age as far as how we deal with one another in the world. The age of individuality is ending, and it's ending as a failed experiment in which we try to transcend our natural innate need to function as units. Although we're highly intelligent in comparison to other species on the planet, we are still mammals. Mammals are defined primarily by being social groups. All mammals function in a social environment, social unit. There's no individualism in the world of social culture. Yet we have tried to thrive in a culture in which there is a high level of individualism. We're going to strike out on our own. We're going to go out and do things on our own. We love to claim, although the claim is erroneous, that we are self-made. I'm a self-made millionaire. I'm a self-made entrepreneur. I came out of this pit of poverty and suffering by myself. And the truth of the matter is nobody does it by themselves, but in the force of trying to do things by yourself, you're literally harming yourself because you weren't designed to do that. There's either healthy consumption, whether we're talking nutrition, whether we're talking information, whether we're talking environment, there's either healthy consumption or toxic consumption. And the more that we exist in a toxic environment, the less functional we become, the more lethargic we become in our creative capacity, the more lethargic we become in the force at which we move toward what we believe is our destiny and our goal. We are living in toxic environments that we've been trained to do. We are trained to be selfish. We are trained to see only what we want to see, have only what matters to us, do things based solely on how it will impact us. And we've taught ourselves to enjoy whatever little piece of this individuality we can experience. Now, what happens is because we're so engrossed in this individualized mindset, we enter a world where some get more than others. We don't get to experience the world or the universe of abundance as it was created and designed. We tend to move into worlds where we see things based on the way the culture defines it. So there's an abundance for some, and then there's a lack for others. But the truth of the nature is that in the true meaning of how things operate, there's no such thing as lack. This is a universe of abundance. It creates and produces whatever is demanded of it, and it does it at the level in which it is demanded. The problem is most of us aren't taught about how to do that. So we go around just trying to get a piece of, quote unquote, the pie. And so we struggle. And then we get upset and uptight and intensive towards others in our circle because we see them as competition. And so now you can't really be happy for someone when you see them experience something, because that probably means you're not going to get it because they have it. But you're not understanding that there's a part of the universe that's designed solely and specifically for you to go in and demand and create this world in which you are empowered, impactful, and forceful in doing something that changes the world, that impacts lives, that serves people outside of yourself. It's always about serving others. It's always by finding a way to be more impactful. But the thing is, we compete. It's easier for us to not trust one another because we all see each other at some level as the competition, because we live a world where we define it by what we don't have or what we think we don't have versus what we're capable of creating. But what we're finding now is that experiment in individualism hasn't worked for us. We've got a lot of people who thrive and talk about how independent they are. You know, I don't have to ask anybody for anything. And while it sounds good in this erroneously defined culture, in reality, it's speaking of how empty you are on the inside. See, when we really truly understand who we are and the need to connect, and we start to connect, but we start to see people differently. Instead of seeing somebody as a drain, instead of seeing somebody as somebody that might take something that you want, you see them as somebody striving for the same thing, going in the same direction, and you work more powerfully together. See, that's what it is. It's the combining or the syncing of energy to create what we call synergy. Synergy is this force in which you create something more powerful than you with someone else than you can create by yourself. When you look at an operable marriage, you are experiencing synergy. The masculine energy of the male, the feminine energy of the female, the spiritual intuition of the female, the physical force of the male, combining and creating a synergy where they accomplish things together that neither one of them could accomplish on their own. That synergy. But see, that requires you to get out of the individualized mindset. One of the primary reasons that marriage ends, while they have these categories, finance and infidelity. No, the primary reason that marriages end is individualism. Someone thinking about themselves and not looking at the whole. Someone thinking about themselves more than they're thinking about their mate. That is what drives it, because even when you deal with the other, see, that wouldn't be infidelity if the person was not in themselves. When you get to a point where there's a financial problem, when you come together as a unit, you function as a unit, you look inside of one another. Instead of blaming the other person, you come along and say, let's see what we can do together. And the synergy creates the opportunity. It creates the confidence. It creates the force. But when you're operating individually, you have these problems, and you got a bunch of married people operating individually. But it goes beyond marriage. It goes beyond family. It goes beyond community. It goes beyond race. It goes beyond socioeconomic status. But there has to be a connectivity. There has to be a group in which you feel you belong to, that you can relate to, that you feel are headed in the same direction. It's absolutely imperative that you get out of an individualized mindset. You got too many people trying to do too much on their own, and it's a failed experiment. And like I said, when I got into studying this whole thing on loneliness, it totally blew me away. Like I said, the first thing that blew me away was the fact that the largest group of people who say they're lonely on an ongoing basis are youth between the ages of 16 and 24. And obviously there's a corresponding dynamic that's associated with depression. As a matter of fact, there is a direct scientific correlation between people who feel lonely on an ongoing basis and the development of clinical depression. So now you're sitting up and you're understanding that trying to operate in an environment in which you're not connected, and again, like I said, being around people doesn't mean you're connected to them. It's being intimately connected. In other words, where you're sharing with one another. You're sharing experiences, you're sharing aspirations, you're sharing ideas, you're sharing your hopes, but you're sharing them with people that you connect with, people going in the same direction, people who will uplift you, people who will encourage you, people who will speak to you, speak into you, people who will edify you and elevate you. You need those people around you. And if they don't exist organically, you have to create that. You have to go out and find people who will see in you what others don't see. See, the thing is, we get caught up in another thing, and another dynamic is the organic circle of the people who are in your periphery without, that wasn't a part of your choice. They were there. That starts with parents, siblings, schoolmates growing up, and all of these people who just automatically were there. And that's the organic circle, and especially when it comes to family, we want to expect, because that's how things are defined, that our family is going to be the most supportive element or component in the things we desire to do. But see, the problem with family is family have known you. Your family has known you from day one. So your family knows what kind of grades you got in elementary and what classes. Your family knows some of the poor decisions you made as a teenager. Your family knows the fact that you failed at this marriage and that marriage. Your family knows that you've been incarcerated. Your family knows that you've started several businesses and they haven't failed. Your family, and the horrible thing is, we've been trained to see the negative and magnify the negative and not look for the positive. And so we're very good at telling people what they can't do. We're very good at defining why someone will never be able to do something, far more than we are prepared to talk about the possibilities of what people can do. And so you'll look, and your family will likely not be where you're going to find the greatest deal of support. Some families are great at supporting one another. Some other families are great at hanging out with one another. Other families, everybody's at each other's throat. Everybody sees nothing but the negative inside. And then you build drama from that, and you create a toxic environment that you do everything in your power to escape from, and you're not able to do it. And so you've got to be able to manufacture and create a somewhat of a created circle where you go out and you choose who's going to be in your periphery. You choose people. Some are going to be those who excel and have done more than you. Some are going to be those that are in the same group and same level as you. Others are going to be those you see with the same aspirations, but behind, that you're going to actually use your force to pull along. And so you've got a group of people that you can aspire to, look to, glean from, learn from, and train yourself. You got others that are going to roll with you. So you're out there every day, at least once a week or twice a week, talking to each other. How's it going for you? What are you doing? How is it happening? Anything I can do? And then you're going to move on. And then you're going to have those you look at and say, hey, I'm paying it forward. I'm going to sow into you the way people are sowing into me. And I'm going to speak into your life the way people are speaking into mine. I'm going to elevate you and lift you. This is totally and completely and diametrically opposed to the way that most things happen in this world. Everybody sees everybody as competition. Even if we buddies, I'm looking at you and I'm kind of saying, well, how he doing? And how's she doing? And whatever's up. And then feeling some kind of way when you get something that I don't have. And so now there's this competition. There's this negative energy. There's this drop in frequency and vibration. And there's this negative force in your life, and you can define it in many ways. But what it does is, the more that you see people around you as your competition, the lonelier you get. And so it's amazing. And then the next thing that I discovered were the correlations between loneliness and physical and emotional and mental health. We already talked about depression being a direct result of chronic loneliness. But what we also need to look at is loneliness now, when you look at what it does to you biologically, what it does to you mentally and emotionally, it is now considered more dangerous than obesity. And if you followed anything over the last 10 years, you know that obesity is considered an epidemic. It contributes to a number of different biological illnesses and diseases, from diabetes to cardiovascular diseases to coronary heart disease, and so many other things. And then also, not only is it worse than obesity, it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes per day. That's more than 2 cartons of cigarettes per month. Loneliness is that destructive. When you don't engage it, when you don't understand how to operate in it, it has that kind of impact on you physically. So it's not, and that's one of the things that you have to understand, that there's a psychosomatic connection between what you think, what you feel, and how your body responds. Matter of fact, your ability to heal yourself is immensely and most powerfully connected to where your mindset is. How people respond to treatment in illnesses is directly associated with where you are mentally, what you expect from what you're going through. And that has a massive impact on your health overall. One day I'll get into all of that on a different level. We'll talk about epigenetics. We'll talk about mindset. We'll talk about psychosomatics. We'll talk about how we're passing down poor health. And it's not just from nutritional components and elements which play a role, but it comes from mental thinking, your thought processes, how you see yourself, how you see the world around you, things that we need to come together and join together and become a force in. It's real hard when you think you're facing the world alone. And that's what people who are feeling lonely feel, that they're going through things that nobody understands them, that the world could literally close in on them and nobody would care. That feeling is not a feeling that anybody should have to experience, and you are in control of that, because I guarantee you, I don't care how you feel about where you're at now, the people in your circle may be extremely negative, they may be extremely critical, they may be everything but what you need. But I guarantee you, if you get out and you look, there are people who can see the genius in you. There are people who can see the creativity and imagination in you, the potential in you to do exceptional and extraordinary things. There are people in you that would love to speak into your life, into your destiny, into what you will become. If you get out and engage people, if you take life and you go out and you make it be what it needs to be, instead of sitting back receiving the story and narrative somebody else wrote about your life. It's time that you take the pen out of the hand of anyone that's writing your narrative. You write your narrative. You set the standard. You sit up and determine what you're capable of. You validate your purpose and your mission in this world, your assignment in this world. You're the one. You've been given total control. Now, you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do. You can control how you see it. You can control how you interpret it. A bunch of us are interpreting some things that in a negative mindset, that it's not actually negative. It's there to elevate us, but we see it through the lens that's foggy, that's individualized, that's selfish, that doesn't take into consideration the fact that you got to invest some sweat equity into anything worthwhile to have it. So we get frustrated with life when life doesn't lay down for us, and we blame everything except the fact that we're not doing what we should be doing. But this whole loneliness thing is crazy. And the thing is, I want to reiterate, we are at our best when we are engaging with people whose meaning of life, or meanings of life, intersect with ours. People who have the same desire, people who want to make a difference in the world, people who want to develop and build wealth so that they can serve better, people who want to go out and speak positive to other people, people who want to be a representation of what's possible, not only by what they say, but how they live their lives. And then you want to be around these people, and you want to have them, like I said, in tears. You want those that are exceptional and phenomenal and have done unbelievable things in their lives, and you want them around you, because you're going to gain experience and knowledge. You're going to have what's known as transactional or transformational education. Transformational education is this thing where you determine that you are going to gain and glean things that are going to take you to the next level. They don't teach transformational education in public education at all. They don't teach it in the universities. They don't teach it in grad programs. They don't teach it in doctorate programs. What transformational education is the development of wisdom through the understanding and discernment of what one learns from others in experience in life. It's the taking of the knowledge and then actually putting it to use, but it's being exposed to those who can give the knowledge in an organic manner, in which you come in and you bring something to the table, if nothing more than a positive mindset that is respectful and appreciative of what is to be gained that day. There are a lot of people, I'm telling you, from a prime example, some of the greatest forces that move me on a regular basis are the words "thank you," and it comes from people who have never worked with me directly, but seen my videos, read my books, watched some of my lectures, signed up for one of my online classes, and whatever. So, and it's like, hey, I just want to thank you. You know, you really inspire me. You know, you give me hope. And I get these daily. And, you know, they don't pay the bills, but they definitely make me see and feel the thing that drives me more than anything. Money is a motivating factor because I have a family that needs me and I have generations that I want to impact financially. So yes, money moves me, but what moves me more are the people who literally are being helped by what I do. And a lot of them aren't people I work with directly. Those are people that I'm able to reach because I'm leveraging different platforms to reach them. And it's happening in multiple ways. But the thing is, that's an environment where it's not just, see, I'm not in this island. I've got these people. And then there are people who pour into me. There are people who I look to as mentors. There are people I look to for advice. It's always that way with me. I am never at a place where I think I know it all. Because there's this unbelievable consciousness, the mind of God, this universal consciousness that's out there that is so everything there is. And that's something I tell myself. There's something I repeat every day. And a part of it says that there's this universe, there's a universal mind of God and of which I am a part. And there's absolutely no problem, no situation, no circumstance that the universal mind does not have the answer to. And whatever challenges I am facing now, the answers are speeding their way to me as I speak. And so what happens? Things I don't know, I learn. Why? Because I'm open to it. I'm not closed. See, the moment you start thinking that you know it all, you shut down, you stop listening, and you miss. So you want people around you that you can glean from, but you also want people around you that can ride with you, that can experience it with you, that you can support and encourage as all of you move towards something. And it won't be exactly the same thing, but it will be in the direction of up and forward. And when you're up and forward and you're heading in general directions and you're going after something, you can encourage one another. And you would be surprised that some of the people that I communicate with and I get behind are actually in my industry and in the old way of thinking would be considered my competitors. I don't see anybody as a competitor. I see someone else I see others who are in my industry as contributors. Each one contributing in a unique way that opens up a part of the market in which they are able to reach people in a way no one else can. That solidifies them in that market. My goal is to find my space. It's to find my space where my unique talents, my unique abilities, my unique giftedness and knowledge and expertise functions to bring people to points in their lives where they can feel fulfilled. That's it. So I don't worry about the other people out there. I learn from them. I share with them my perspectives, my techniques, and everything like that. I'm not worried if they're going to go off with my technique and say it's theirs. I don't even get caught up in that type of stuff. What I do is I just help somebody that I know, even if they're out there about the money, they're going to help people in the process because if I'm dealing with them, I've already seen the work they do and they're helping people. But the thing is, you can't get as deep as I am in this and it just be about money because a great deal of what you do is going to be done outside of the scope of what you earn. And you've got to be willing to do it because that's where the greatest growth comes from. I'm not saying do things for free. Don't let people rape your gift. Don't let people rape your genius. Don't let people take from you. You got to know your value and you got to establish it. As a matter of fact, one of the most powerful things I received this past week was a reminder of my value. You know, I have a tendency because I want to work with everybody that I'm out there like I'm discounting this, I'm discounting this. Somebody I consider a friend, definitely a colleague, somebody I admire, who I've worked with before, went to school with, so I've known him for a while, came to me and basically said, "Don't do that again." And, you know, not in those exact words, but very close to don't do that again. Don't discount anything else. If you want to give away a free disc assessment, that's fine, but don't discount anything else. It's too valuable and you're killing your value. And the advice was great because I knew it's great. It's the same advice I give everybody else. And then I get out. We all know we have these points in times where we don't follow our own advice. People do it. People say, well, you know, if you're talking like this, why? We don't. We don't follow our own advice. We'll give each other great relationship advice and be in a sucked relationship ourselves. And we're like, you know, and so I've learned also that, you know, that whole paradigm, and I'm going to get back to what I'm saying, that whole idea about, you know, you don't take advice from someone who hasn't done it. But then there's this thing that most people don't even realize, that uh, probably more people have been successful by taking an advice from a guy that didn't experience a lot of success in the way that you would think. And matter of fact, came very close to dying broke. You can't talk to anybody who has talked about being successful in their life and attracting things and building things and developing and growing things that hasn't read Think and Grow Rich, and yet Napoleon Hill almost died broke. I think that, you know, not long before he died, someone funded his organization. So the whole idea is you can't learn from somebody who hasn't done it. Don't believe it. Because if I know something and I've done it, and I go share it with this dude over here and I give it to him, and it's exactly what I've done, and he's never done it before, and he goes and shares it with the next people because I sold it to him well. The next person decides, I'm not going to listen to you because you ain't never did it. He misses it. But the same person can say, where did you get it from, or whatever? Just trust me. I got it from somewhere and it's solid. And that person takes it and then goes and does something with it. I think that proves it. I think we have to get out of it. I think if nothing else, I listen to everybody. I listen to homeless people. I listen to kids. I listen to everybody, and I listen to them with an open ear. And then I take what they give me and I go dig into it. And what that does is it makes sure that I never pass on something that I need to take. But it also ensures, because I'm going to back it up with my own research, that I never sold a bill of goods that doesn't matter, and that I'm never outselling something that is not going to work. Because I'm in almost everything I've experienced it by now in my life. I mean, at some level, at some place, at some point. But, you know, I received new revelations of how to do things that I've always known needed to be done differently. And so I go out and I look at it and say, okay, I can see where this works. And I see where this works. I'm going to integrate. And when I integrate it, I start sharing it. But it's always because, so don't get in the idea that because you can't see it, that it's not solid. I know some very, very intelligent people. A couple of them homeless, that just simply is not into it. But when they sit down, they'll chop up business and finance with you, and you'll be sitting up there with your mouth open, because if you know it, you know they're telling the truth. And you're going like, man, and you're thinking to yourself, why are you here? And just the question of why you're here insinuates that the life you're living is the only way to live life. Not everybody that's homeless is homeless because they can't do anything different. Some people are just checked out of the way things are being done, and they don't want, they are totally off the grid. And, you know, and that comes with a sense of loneliness too, but we're not gonna get in that. But ultimately, we've got to find a way to get to the point where we get out of the last and final thing is that we have confused the means with the end. What I mean by means, the degrees on our wall, the money in our bank account, the cars we drive, the houses we live in, all of those things are means to something else. And if we don't really truly redefine what the end is and what the means, see, the means are the material things. The ends are the things that we get to experience on an internal level that bring us fulfillment. And see, the car may be something you drive in and you get a sense of fulfillment for a minute, and then you drive it for a couple of months and you still enjoy it, but it's not the feeling you got when you bought it. And you're starting to look at it and you go, okay. And then if you got means, you'll go out and buy another one because you're trying to replace the feeling. But see, the car isn't the thing. You know, when I talk to people and I ask them to just really be honest, what's the most fulfilling moment in your life? You know what I actually get? It has nothing to do with materialism, hardly ever. It's the first time I held my son, my first pregnancy, the smile on my mother's face when she saw me walk across that stage. Now, it wasn't the graduation. It was the relationship with mom that saw you go through everything, something she's never experienced. She gets to experience vicariously through you, and you remember it for the rest of your life. That smile on your mother's face. And I've experienced that personally. And so it's the things that we can experience on the inside that develop us, that grow us. It's the ability, I've heard people talk about, this time that I saw this person and I just pulled over and they were going through something and I helped them change their flat. And then we exchanged and, we keep in touch now. Connectivity. I mean, when I get down to it, people on the surface will start talking surface stuff initially, but if you get them to get out of the surface talk and you get them to really get into what really moves them, it's not the things on the surface. The things on the surface are either things you get in the process of going where you're going, and they're good to enjoy in their place, but they're not the end. The end is the full development of who you are and the working out and living out of your destiny to be an impact on this world. When you finish, if all you got is a bunch of stuff that you got to leave behind, you failed. But if you finish and you've got a track record of having touched lives, having changed lives, having demonstrated the capacity to grow over and over again, change and evolve over and over again to become better, to become stronger, to become more impactful. Now you've left a legacy that people will look into and peer into and read and dissect in order to be better in their own lives. That's when you are where you need to be. But we can't do it in this world of individuality, individualism. We boast of our independence, but we struggle. It's so many people. When I go into communities, inner city communities, where poverty is just stifling, and I start to look at these families, and I'm going house to house, and my mentee and close friend Michael Jordan know what I'm talking about. You know, we going to, and you're going from door to door, or you having a meeting, you're sitting down and you're talking with these individuals because they're sending kids. There's a community that I've worked in where they're sending kids to school, and they're living and squatting in abandoned buildings with no running water, no electricity, no gas, no heat, and then the cold. And they're sending these kids to these schools, and they're going to school and they're trying to learn, but they got this weight on their shoulders. And then the parents are carrying a weight of struggle, of frustration, of believing that suffering and poverty is their lot in life. And you're dealing with it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going in, and I'm sitting down, and I'm talking to these families, and I'm talking to these, these people. And the one thing that I notice is just unbelievable is that you've got in this one community probably 1,000 person in so many square block radius that are in homes that are old and dilapidated, and apartment buildings that have been so run down and dilapidated that they're now condemned and shut down, and they're living in them. And one is next door to the other, and the other is next door to the other, and the other is next door to the other, but they're all suffering individually. And so my goal was unite, join forces, bring together. And this is on a very superficial level when you really think about it, but combine your resources and buy in bulk. Combine your resources and buy in bulk. And then combine your resources and start acquiring property as a collective. And I told them about something I know about that I've done before. And if you need to create a legal entity in which you can do this and protect yourself from tax liabilities, create an unincorporated business trust. There are other ways of doing this as well, but you don't have to suffer alone. You've been trained to, and people are benefiting from your suffering alone, but you're not trapped there. You've got another 1,000 people that are living the same struggle you're struggling with, and nobody has thought to come together. That's the conditioning of the society we live in. While some benefit from it, most sit around and struggle in it and never ever get an idea of what it takes to come out, because we're so individualized in our thinking. So what am I saying? I'm saying that it is immensely important that you discover who you are and identify those who are similar in ideas, in values, in interests, in principles, in desires and aspirations, in how they want to rear their kids and how they want to engage the world, in entrepreneurship, in the desires of developing wealth, making an impact in the community. Find people that you can connect to, become a sense and a source of energy, inspiration and support for those, and allow them to do the same for you. Get out of the idea that you're out there trying to figure out this thing on your own. The world we live in is far too complex for you to get out there and think you're going to go out on your own and just totally take it by storm. It doesn't happen that way. You get a lot of people talking about their self-made millionaire. I haven't met one yet. I've met some that come up with ideas and got on their grind, but they had to call somebody. They had to have somebody call somebody. They had to have somebody open some doors. They had to listen to somebody's advice. You're never doing it by yourself. So with that being said, look, I'm gonna get off of here. But I had to stop by and talk to you about that. Um, and I actually stayed within the confines, which is new for me, of what I thought I would do. I thought I would end up about 45 minutes to an hour because of the context and the content that I felt was necessary to bring this point home. And I'm at 40 minutes, so I'm gonna finish somewhere around 8 minutes here. As I get ready to check off, let me remind you again, if you haven't gotten your copy of Critical Mass, the phenomenon of next level living, which is my 20th book. Do that now, order it now, and you'll get a free disc assessment, which is a $350 value. And that disc assessment will be performed by yours truly. I'm not going to pass you off to someone else. I'm not going to outsource it. I'm going to sit down with you and we're going to talk. And we're going to also go through this assessment. And then we're going to discuss the outcome of the assessment and what you need to do. If you walk away from that and you're going to go out on your own, it's perfectly fine with me. Would I like to work with some of you guys if you're ready? Yes. If you're not ready, you got to be ready, because if you're not ready, you're not going to commit. I want people who are committed to work with. I got 5 spots just burning right now for some 5 people who are committed. But I only want you if you're committed. Your money's no good with me until you become committed, because it's so much more to it than just paying for something and have somebody telling you what you should do or shouldn't do. It's so much deeper than that. So I want people who are committed. But whatever you do, you get this book and get a disc assessment, which will give you a clear idea of who you are, how you operate, what you respond to, what your strengths are. So you now know how to attack problems from your strengths instead of trying to attack them how you think everybody else does. But anyway, that's it. I got to get out of here. As I always say, look, live your life on full. That's something I'm going to do until the day I die. I'm going to live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. I'm dying on empty. I am not taking any potential to the grave with me. And I'm challenging you to do the same thing.